for all to see. The signs we've lost our way. When we jail our heroes and applaud our villains and turn our hearts away. Like a silent choir, too scared to sing the anthem of a braver day. The Ballad of Dr. Bruce Paix.
There he is. Hello, Dr. Bruce Paix. Are you sounding? Are we sounding any better? We listened to you on podcast last night with the doctors and Michael and Dr. Molly Trin and others, and you sounded a bit nasally, brother. Was there something going on, or were you out painting or something, or what's going on? Have you come good?
Kelly said I did sound a bit secondhand, and I was a bit secondhand. I had a dose of the man flu in the week just gone. Probably, by my reckoning, I reckon that's the first respiratory I've had since Canberra.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
And it was a medium hard hit, so still not FAB, but I managed to soldier on. I don't have any sick leave left to take, you see.
You're funny about that. Yeah, well, you can't have you having time off work, mate. Now that you're sort of your own boss and you're paying yourself, you can't just lay in bed all day,
Look, I do it, but can you imagine the catch up? I just have to catch up all my tasks.
Yeah, it's too much. That's too much, isn't there, brother? Yeah.
Now, on that topic,
yes, go.
On that topic, let me give a raspberry to the SA Health Commission, because whilst I was in the process of exiting my former career for Dissent, I spent about 8 months running out the various leaves that I'd accumulated, because, blow my own trumpet here, I was such a good employee. I never took leave for anything. So I had 8 months of leave up my sleeve when I was shown the door. And there was also about 6 months of sick leave, because, again, I just went to work, did my stuff and didn't bother anybody. So when I finally got a positive COVID swab during that runoff period, I applied to convert my leave into sick leave, because, as you know, if you're on leave, technically you're working. So if you're sick while you're working, you take sick leave. So you can convert annual leave into sick leave if you're sick. Now, I had a certificate from the South Australian government that said I was not fit to be seen in public for, I think it was 10 days, maybe 2 weeks, due to that positive PCR. So I applied to convert some of my sick leave to just give me a little bit longer. And I was peeing 5 or 6 months of it up the wall anyway, after, as I was leaving. And you know what those SOBs said? They ruled that I was not eligible for sick leave because I wasn't fit to work.
Oh.
And I wasn't fit to work because I hadn't taken the magic holy shots, as Paul Oosterhouse would say. So, I mean, how does that work? If you're not fit to work due to illness, are you not fit to take sick leave? Anyway, that was just the final little, coup de grace, the final little insult that I was handed for 32 years of faultless service.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people probably feeling the same, and I was a little bit the same with my work, because November 21, I got my letter to say you can no longer work in the disability sector in South Australia, and my employer at the time said, well, I was entitled to 4 weeks notice, so they ceased my work on the at the end of November, beginning of December, and decided that I wasn't eligible for my 1 month's notice pay because I wasn't actually eligible to work. So they dipped me a month of notice pay. It's the same thing, right? So they just screw you over, right? So, and I wasn't eligible to apply for any Centrelink, all that BS that you go through, because technically I wasn't unemployed until the beginning of January, which is a month later, right? So this is what they did. And again, same thing. I loyal worker, no sick leave, did the right thing all the way through, never had any disputes or issues. I was a team leader, and then went back down to support worker when I saw everything that was going on, and I had to take people living with disability to appointments to receive their jab, and I couldn't in good conscience do that. So I stepped down from that position. And that's how they serve you up with loyal service and say, here you go. We're not going to do the right thing and at least pay you your 1 month's leave because you weren't entitled, because the government said that you weren't eligible to work because you were a dirty person that didn't want to take a medical procedure under duress. But anyway, there you go. This is 4 years on, and they wonder why we're still talking about it, Bruce. And all these people that keep saying, COVID's over and done with, this is all done. I'm sorry, I'm not going to give you the pleasure of shutting up. I don't really care what you're saying. I'm going to continue to talk about it as people like you and Dr. Miley Trin's going through lots of stuff. We've seen she's going to continue to go through to the Supreme Court and take her case further. And so no, not going to shut up about it. You can get sick of it, sick of hearing it as much as you want. Sorry, not going to let go of it that easy. But anyway, let's get going, Bruce, because I did want to a little bit of that segment from yesterday, because I think it's important for audience, obviously the Cafe Locked-Out audience that watch us, possibly watch others, but just in case they missed them, I just wanted to do a couple of grabs from that episode as my little bit of intro, Bruce, before we get onto your stuff, and just so people get a bit of an idea of the total discussion. It went for about an hour 11. I know there's a bit of an intro from Michael on that, but I just want to play a couple of grabs from that so it gives people that haven't seen it yet a little bit of a taste, and to sit and watch all of it. So I'll just do that, and you can comment as you see fit or at the end of it, but I'll play a few grabs from that.
Yep, I'm not going to be terribly long-winded tonight for obvious reasons.
Yep, no worries. All right, well, see, here we go. So I'm just going to do this. So good work again, Michael, for putting these guys on as well. Love your work. It's amazing stuff. And let's see if we can get this first little clip. Now, this is Miley talking here. This is a little clip from Miley talking.
Possibly take out a doctor of your standing with an anonymous complaint where someone can't be, their phone number doesn't work, the email bounces back. How can they possibly to throw away a career on that? It's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. I don't care if it's legal. It's fucking ridiculous. That means every doctor is susceptible. They can take any doctor who's watching.
Yes.
If you and there must be watchers doctoring any of you, that's how they can take you out. One word out of place, one thing gone. All your work, all your career, all your dreams, everything you've planned down the gurgler, and you'll spend a few years going through what Dr. Miley's gone through. We have to walk away like Bruce Paix. I mean, it is just ridiculous. We can't have it. We just can't have it, because doctors have to be secure that I'm the only lay person here. If I go to a doctor, I want a doctor to tell me the truth and be frightened of telling me, hey, Mick, you're going to die or something like that. I don't want them frightened of me and frightened of the government's breathing down their neck. We want our doctors to be standalone men or standalone women. The buck stops with them. Just tell us. That's what the Australian public want. That's what people want. Yeah, it's completely wrong. Yeah, sorry guys, that was Michael first, but I had prepped up Miley, but that's Michael, still passionate, and nothing that he's saying there is untrue. I mean, this is the whole thing. It was it's just silence the doctors. You used as bait. You guys were the posse that they used to shut everybody down, and unfortunately, if more doctors did stand up, these regulators and all that wouldn't have had a chance. But unfortunately, their pay packets and other things obviously played a part in that. So hopefully, I think this is the Miley one. I'll see if I can get this Miley talking herself.
I had 2 complaints made against me. The first one was from Westmead Hospital, the toxicology department, from the intern. And she said that she made a complaint against me. She was told by Associate Professor Ginger from Westmead to make a complaint against me. So she didn't know why she made a complaint. She just did what she was told. Now, the patient did not consent to the complaint. And that wasn't told to me until I've discovered, I got suspicious that there was no consent. I asked the Healthcare Complaints Commission, and they eventually admitted. So the second complaint was the John Smith complaint, who they refused to tell us whether John Smith was a real person or whether it's a pseudonym or whatever. So they refused to answer, but John Smith did not provide a contact detail that's reachable. So his telephone number wasn't reachable, and his email address bounced back, although the email got through when he made the complaint against me, and he didn't have a physical address. So we have no way of identifying who John Smith is. But John Smith, when he filed the complaint, he attached the ivermectin script that he alleged his friend had been prescribed, and that friend didn't have worms, and he's been given ivermectin from me. And he alleged that I am an anti-vaxxer, that I promote an alternate treatment for COVID-19 on an online forum, etc. And he knew exactly how many ivermectin scripts, how many other ivermectin scripts I prescribed. And he got it right, by the way. So I had to go and check and see, and he was right. But so John Smith knew everything about ivermectin and about what I did. But the thing is that prescription that John Smith used belonged to my brother. Now, John Smith redacted the name and the address, but he forgot to redact the Medicare number, which was on the electronic script. And I looked at it and I said, that's my brother. So I took that script on the day that I prescribed it. I took that script to the chemist, and I left it at the chemist because they ran out of supplies. So when I got the notification from APRA, I went back to the chemist and asked the chemist assistant, where's my prescription? So she couldn't find it, but then later she told me that she remembered that prescription was handed over to an APRA agent. And
so I'm just going to stop it there, because how familiar does that sound, Bruce? Because when I was listening to that last night, I mean, it's absolutely, from what Miley's saying, it sounds like the biggest stitch up, and this is why I think she's so passionate about continuing onto the Supreme Court, because it almost stinks of the AFP stuff that you went through, right? Is the hamburger with a lot. So the Healthcare Complaints Commission and everybody involved in what's going on with Dr. Miley Trin sounds like the health practitioners, burger with a lot, like the AFP did with you with the burger with a lot, trying to put you away. I mean, it absolutely, the way that Miley, explains it there, and she's such a, just a humble, beautiful human being from what I've seen of her in the public realm. And I wouldn't say, didn't see a dishonest bone in her body, but just so people understand, Bruce, and I think it's important, anybody that from the channels that are watching from mine, I know Cafe Lockdown and Michael's had Miley on quite a bit, just for people to understand a little bit about where Miley's from. This is Michael kind of going through a little bit of Miley's background. So I did want to play that quickly as well. I'll bring that back up again now. I'll just drop that off. Won't be a sec. I'll bring that back up. So yeah, I just it's such a bloody stitch up, mate. Look, this is just ranks of bloody corruption, and I really hope that at some point, justice is served, because ultimately, there's been so much injustice that's happened over this time. So I'll just play this, because I think this is important for people to understand what's going on here.
Dr. Miley's story. And Dr. Miley's story is extraordinary. So she was basically fled the killing fields of Cambodia. The mother, unfortunately, passed away there at the hands of the communists, or the Khmer Rouge. She ended up getting to Australia as a young girl over here. she was working in sweatshops. When she was working in sweatshops, she realized that the only way to get out of this was to educate herself. So she'd have a sewing machine and she'd have school books above her. She didn't speak English when she turned up. She had to learn English, and then she taught herself. She first went to get in medical school. She got into dentistry, and then from there she got into medical. She opened up her own surgery. I think she had several doctors working for a while. She was a doctor without a single complaint in 28 years, until finally she gets called to come and look by another doctor. Can you come and look at this woman who was dying, following the proper principles that they were expected to follow in COVID, and she was dying, and she gave her ivermectin, and the chief witness for the people who have now found her guilty. When the judge asked the chief witness, did she save her life? The chief witness said she did. So this is a doctor of immense pedigree. This is a hero of our country, a hero of multiculturalism. We should be a poster child for accepting refugees. Lee is absolutely the poster child for that. And we are trying to destroy her now because she won't jump through the new hoops of the tyrannical regime that we currently live under.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. And just lastly, Bruce, going to finish off on you actually, and then I'll hand over the reins of the show to you. But also wanted to share your little input sort of towards the end as well with your little croaky voice. So let's get this going.
It's obvious. The doctors are not there they're not working for their patients, they're working for the government. And Medicare did that in the 70s.
Yeah.
And when I was Chief Health Officer for the Australian Army in the Middle East, I was a relatively junior level 4 officer reservist doing a professional full-time level 5 officer job. In other words, I was way out of my depth. And one of the best allies I had was the legal officer in the headquarters. He was a lieutenant colonel. And he sat me down at one point and said, what you have to understand is that you work for the person who pays you. He said, I get diggers come to me and they sit down and they say, I've got a problem with the army. And he says, stop. Before you say another word, understand I'm not working for you, I'm working for the army. Every doctor needs to say that to their patients. You've got to understand, I'm not your doctor, I'm the government's doctor. When you understand that, you can understand everything that they've done to us.
Wow.
You know, you can only be a doctor if you push the party line. As Paul said, it's a political post now. You know, you're no different to the political commissar. Your job is not to practice medicine. Your job is to tell patients what to do according to government policy. And if you won't do that, you will be punished. You will be run out of town. And if you complain about it, you'll go through a legal process to destroy you.
Yep. Yep. Boom, Tish. Final comments there from you, mate. So, yeah, powerful. Look, I recommend people, and the reason I wanted to share that is obviously I want that to go. You know, we want this to go to as many people as possible. Miley's case, as was the case with you, and many other doctors that wanted to speak out for the benefit of their patients during that time, are absolutely persecuted. So, you know, Miley, yourself, and others. Again, continue to do a great service, and you're in a different position, obviously, to you. People listening to the discussion will find out that you obviously couldn't work in a corrupt system anymore. You know, Miley's obviously, for her own personal reasons, continuing through the Supreme Court, from what I understand. And but exactly right, Bruce. This is where we're at. We've got doctors that are subscripted to the government. So ultimately, when you go and see your doctor, is the doctor actually really working for you, or are they working for the government? And we know that. And you mentioned that about Medicare. Obviously changed all that because you know, you start getting paid by taxpayer money as opposed to private citizens, which we all are anyway. Then, you know, you've got to follow where the money's coming from, don't you? And you've got to abide by the, you know, this is the God, daddy government, you know. So, yeah, very interesting.
That's why the doctors failed us, and that's why the police failed us, because neither of them were working for us. They were working for the government. That's why they failed us. So let me just summarise a few things about Miley. So, as Michael said, a spectacular migrant success story. Literally stepped off a refugee boat in Australia, I think in the 80s, with nothing. started work in a sweatshop, a sewing clothing shop, self-educated herself all the way through medicine, and then ran a practice for, I think, 27 years without a complaint. I was 32 years without an APRA complaint. Paul Oosterhouse, 32 years without an APRA complaint, etc., etc. So a spectacular success, both as a New Australian and as a doctor. Her crime was that early on in the whole COVID madness, she prescribed ivermectin to a dying patient. Now, this was before the "you cannot prescribe this" edicts came out. So at the time, it was perfectly legal for her to prescribe ivermectin. She prescribed it to a dying patient who was failing approved therapy, and the patient survived, almost certainly because of her. Wasn't illegal what she did. APRA then, in my opinion, generated out of thin air a fictitious complaint using an anonymous and untraceable witness with an obviously made-up name, John Smith. When I worked in the military, every Special Forces guy who came in wounded was called John Smith. It was the standard pseudonym to hide their name. Same as in the American cop shows, John Doe is what they call the body. Jane Doe and John Doe. It's just a generic term for that. So they had a clearly fictitious complaint. She went before an APRA process, which is an inquisition. It's a star chamber. It's not set up with any of the legal checks and balances that I had access to when I went through the criminal trial. So she couldn't call the witness. They didn't know who the bloody witness was. So she couldn't get to cross-examine the person who was making the complaint against her. She couldn't meet her accuser. A fundamental rule of judicial fairness is you get to meet your accused. You get to question what they're saying. You get to respond to it. She didn't get any of that. She just got told, well, here's a fictitious complaint about you, and we're going to go with it. And they did. And they found her guilty of, I think, grossly substandard medical conduct. Not because she saved the life of a dying woman that the system was failing, but because she didn't follow the rules. She didn't follow orders was her crime. And yep, she's just been through the tribunal, and they've agreed with that. She was practicing at a grossly substandard level. She's deregistered for 5 years.
Yep.
Now that only makes sense if you understand that the job of the doctor was to read the government script and write the government script. The job of the doctor was not to save the dying woman. That was completely irrelevant in this case.
Yep.
So that pretty much explains it perfectly, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And just pretty much what Overwood said there, the government obviously wanted Miley to kill the patient instead of saving the patient as she did. So that's what the treatment protocols were all seemed to be designed to do, because the treatment protocols before COVID were different to when they changed for COVID. Because respiratory diseases, elderly people, as you know, well, you explain it better than me, is that they get a respiratory infection, ends up turning into pneumonia. You normally treat with antibiotics and other sorts of stuff. I think Jicky Leaks on X did a lot of work on this, pointing out how a lot of elderly patients were killed. Is that pretty much, have I got that right? Yeah.
In no other illness do you say, okay, we know you're getting sick, we're going to ignore it till you're nearly dead, which was the COVID template. Stay at home till you turn blue, then go to hospital, and we'll give you run death is near to kill you, and we'll ban you from anything else. They banned vitamin D as well, and I've been reading up on more and more about vitamin D lately. And there's yet another wrinkle with vitamin D. We know that the vast majority of people who died from around accused of COVID had low vitamin D levels. We know that the official vitamin D levels that the government says you should be 50 to 125 nanograms per mil. Almost everybody who died of COVID was sub 50. So they were grossly deficient in vitamin D. We also know that old people don't make vitamin D well when they go out in the sun, because their skin's just, every part of them is not working well, including the skin, which makes vitamin D. So they could have aborted the entire epidemic simply by telling people, take 10,000 units of vitamin D a day. What they do, they ignored it. They told you to stay out of the sun. They beat you up if you dared go outside. And if you got really sick, they administered the coup de grace in hospital with remdesivir.
Yes, that's right, remdesivir. Yeah, yes, much more expensive product because that obviously gives more money too, doesn't it? Remdesivir. Yeah. Ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, all these things were off patent and very, very cheap to administer. But remdesivir was obviously better for the bottom line during this time, Bruce. But anyway, that's just speculation. That's just
Now, full disclosure. So I think the evidence that ivermectin was effective for COVID was pretty good. Certainly the evidence that it was safe was spectacular. The evidence that it affected, I think, was pretty good. So after we finished last week's show, I started to get a scratchy throat. And by Tuesday, Wednesday, I could tell, hang on, I've got a head cold coming on. I can vaguely remember what they feel like. And it was very inconvenient. I had CFA courses over the weekend as well, which, I was doing day 7 of my 7-day driving course, and I didn't want to miss that. And for some reason, they put me on another electrical safety course on the same day. So I was like, it was a twofer. And I thought, I really don't want to miss it. So I started up front taking ivermectin Tuesday, Wednesday. And I took medium-high doses. The COVID dose was 12 to 16 milligrams. I think I was taking about 25, and I did that for about 3 days. And I didn't notice any detectable moderation of the course of the cold that I was developing. I still had a pretty cruddy couple of days, sore throat and a runny nose. And it's getting better now. Might sound gravelly, but I'm definitely on the mend. So at least in that case, I didn't see any personal evidence that I got benefit from it. Of course, you can't tell out of one case. But the reports during COVID were, you got people on death's door, you gave them ivermectin, within 24 hours, they turned the corner. So
depends on the dose and everything else like that all has to do with it. But the thing is that you weren't the other thing with you though, Bruce, and obviously you know this yourself, is you weren't resting during that time either. People that are cook, they generally you take your tablets, you salt whatever, and you lay down, you rest, you whatever. You were obviously still doing stuff and trying to keep busy and work, trying to get through it.
I couldn't rest, Mark. I don't have any sick leave, remember?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But anyway, good on you for your full disclosure there. That's all right. We aim to be honest, and transparent on the show. So yeah, that's all good.
Now, just let me pop back to this question of Carla's too. So talking about the star chamber that Miley went through, is the verdict actually legally legal? It's an irrelevant question, Carla. The APRA complaints process and the tribunal that tried her and came to a complaint does not work under the rules of natural justice. They've got their own set of rules. So you can't go back to them and say you didn't follow due process. They don't have to.
Yeah, exactly right. Yep. No, there's no accountability. There we go. And over it's got gargle with salt water, dear Bruce, and snort it up your nose. There we go. What's the other one? The betadine spray too, isn't there? Something like that. There was a betadine spray.
Look, all of those things are true, but I somehow, inshallah, I've managed to make it through yet another day, and I assume that I'll manage tomorrow. I'm definitely on the mend.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you sound to be better today than you did on yesterday's show. So there you go. Mm-hmm.
Do I look better? I saw my sister recently. She said I look like a hobo.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go. There's a good question. What happens if you ignore APRA?
Well, a couple of things. One is obviously they'll cancel your registration, so you'll know, the profession that you spent decades paying hundreds of thousands to learn, practice, upskill, remain current in. They'll extinguish that, like they extinguish mine. They'll just make it impossible for you to practice. And I understand in Miley's case, I said, well, what penalty can they give you? And yeah, they can penalise you worse because they can charge you pretty massive fees, tribunal fees. And I understand that the fees in Miley's case were in the 5-figure range. And I'm thinking if she doesn't pay that then probably does become a criminal matter, even if the tribunal findings themselves are not. So, yeah, they can certainly punish you. And I did say to Miley, do you even want to be a doctor anymore? And it was terribly sad because clearly she does. And, there were 2 groups of doctors in the COVID era. There was myself, there was Paul Oosterhouse, probably William Bay, who basically said, I want nothing to do with your corrupt system. And there was another group of very genuine-hearted doctors who still wanted to do good. Miley's clearly one of them, Mark Hobart, perhaps Dennis Borchos. And it's terribly, terribly sad because they're still trying to be a real doctor in a system that just doesn't allow it anymore. It's not what it is.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And this, from what I understand, APRA is not really accountable to anybody, to answer to anybody. They were, I think, originally set up under Queensland sort of legislation or something like that, and then ended up being national or something like. I think have you done a bit more homework on that on APRA?
Look, I haven't, and I understand that was the core of Billy Bay's win in the Supreme Court. He didn't even try to defend the charges against him. He merely said, well, you used a totally illegitimate body. But again, what are you going to do about it? I don't think anything changed because he won, and APRA can still license and unlicensed people. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think if they practice anyway without a license, that could be a criminal offence in Australia. There could be some laws or legislation there to say that if you're practicing as a doctor without a license and you're not registered, then that's a proper legal criminal offence, I'd imagine. So yeah.
Yeah, and the bigger picture there is in the olden days, you had a choice of what sort of doctor you went to. We've discussed before. You could see a medical doctor, a naturopathic doctor, a chiropractic doctor, an osteopathic doctor. And they had their own regulatory bodies. And APRA is this quasi-government body that's basically swept up authority for any healthcare provider and rules over the lot of them. So you can't say, stuff APRA, I don't want an APRA doctor, I want a, ethical physicians branded doctor. Like in the old days, if you went past a service station, there might be a sign on the wall that says that MCCC approved or MTAA approved, Motor Trades Association of Australia. So if you wanted a mechanic that was approved to that standard, you just look for the sign and you could go to them. And that's what a free market for registration would do. Wouldn't mean that doctors were just Wild West. It might mean that there's 5 different groups that say, we are a private body. We will certify doctors to be a member of our organisation. They've got to meet XYZ criteria. And if they do that, they can put our stamp on the building. And maybe you don't agree with them because maybe their requirements are, a vegetarian diet, vax everybody at double dose. And you might go, I don't want to go with that body. And there might be the, Alternative Natural Doctors Association. They'll say, no, we don't agree with that. We think nutrition is the most important thing. We're into nutraceuticals. We think pharma is only a last resort to be used for acute illnesses, nothing to do with, chronic health. And maybe you go, yep, I like that body. So you could choose what flavour of doctor, what quality of doctor you went to. Well, of course, the government has gobbled up all of that. So you have a single government-controlled regulatory body, and you have no choice. And in fact, during the COVID era, all health practitioners got what we called the demand letter, the gag order. We all got sent a thing that said, okay, during COVID, you have to do exactly what APRA policy is. You have to tell your patients only the following things, and if you don't do that, there'll be severe consequences. Which meant APRA was your doctor. Even your doctor wasn't your doctor. Your doctor was only the interpreter for APRA. And if, like me, they said, I'm not doing that, you're out of the system and you've got nowhere else to go as a doctor.
Yeah, then Nicola Spurrier becomes your doctor because she overrides you, Bruce.
Well, she became everyone's doctor. Nicola, don't touch the seabird Spurrier.
That's right, exactly. Well, there you go. That was a beefy little intro there, but I think it was worthwhile for people that may not have had a chance yet to watch the Miley Twin discussion with Michael on Cafe Lockdown on Rumble and YouTube and others. And so follow along and watch that. I recommend it. So should we get on to the Bruce content now?
Oh, we might leave it there, save the voice a bit.
Yeah, we can if you want. What do you reckon? Audience? Should we make it an early one tonight, or would you be disappointed? You watch the chat. The chat all come in and agree. Yeah, thumbs up or thumbs down, guys. We should. I wonder if I can get the poll working. Let's see.
Oh,
Let's see
yes.
if I can get. I don't know. I can't find the poll thing now. Anyway, where's the poll thing? I don't even know if I've got the. I don't know. Find it. Maybe it's a widget. Okay, there you go.
Right.
Anyway, let's kick into it.
Kick in a little bit. So there's the contents list for the week. I'm just going to make that bigger on my side so I can read it. So we start off with updates. Now, Mark, Pride Month is ending. Did you know that?
I knew it was about, but I kind of try to ignore it. But I mean, there's another day that comes up in July. I think, I don't know. I'm pretty sure every month of the year has something to do with that. But anyway, a whole month. Look at them go.
Gazump strike.
Okay.
So
sorry about that. I'll pull my head in. Give myself an uppercut again.
The official celebrations for Pride Month end tomorrow. So if you haven't done enough celebrating, it's probably something you might want to look into. Got a delicious piece of irony in the not easy being green segment, and a great example of Brett Weinstein's complex systems. So complex systems are unpredictable. You might have some idea what the forces are, but really, if you do one thing, you can get a surprise at what the actual result is. And so the surprise here is that cracking down on ship pollution actually warms the planet.
Well, there you go. See? And just to let you know, Bruce, the poll's up. I've got in there, should Bruce toughen up and continue? And so all you need to do is put in the chat, put in, either number 1 or number 2, and we'll see. I'm pretty sure the poll will go up. So we'll see how we go. See if you get an early mark today, Bruce. Let's see how the poll goes. Anyway, continue.
All right. Health. I've got more uses of ivermectin, more promising results in cancer, and I'll show you that. An interesting story that the Ozempic class of drugs appear to be eating bariatric surgery's lunch. So weight loss surgery is going way down, and drug weight loss is going way up, apparently. As we were just going to air last week, I was saying that I think Starmer's gone, and in fact, during the show, we got the news that UK Prime Minister Starmer was gone. And so I'm going to flesh that out a little bit this time. In miscellaneous, maybe I am becoming a Christian, Mark, because I've decided to forgive Karl Stefanovic, having listened to and watched some of the things he said. So he's clearly taken the red pill or the COVID pill. And as a result, he's interviewing guests that have got relevant things to say, and people are watching him, and so Channel 9 sacked him. That's not the sort of thing they want. Disaster of the week's been twin earthquakes in Venezuela. And very unusually, we had a couplet, two closely connected in time earthquakes, where the first earthquake was the smaller of the two. We used to getting an earthquake and then getting a series of smaller earthquakes, which are called aftershocks. Well, in fact, aftershocks are only aftershocks if they're smaller. They can be bigger than the first, in which case the first earthquake is a foreshock. So maybe you hadn't heard of that. I heard of it before because of my experience in Aceh. But yeah, I'm going to talk about that. And every night in the news since, they're pulling some poor soul out of rubble covered in dust and hailing them as a miracle survivor and saying that, this is probably the last one because you've only got 3 days to pull people out. That's not true at all. They will be finding miracle survivors probably for 10 to 14 days after the initial event. Happens in every major earthquake. And I'm going to discuss how is it that people can last that long when conventional wisdom is, was it 3 minutes without air, 3 days without water, and 3 weeks without food? So how are they surviving 10 days with no water? I'm going to talk to that.
That sounds interesting because it reminds me of that Australian story of the threadbow survivor. The snow, the collapse, and he was stuck under there. The sad thing, he was holding his wife's hand while. I think so. Yeah.
Philip Diver.
something like that. Yeah, but anyway, probably search it up. If people look at the old Thredbo disaster, the landslide where he survived quite a long time there.
Trevor. And to finish in zombie stories, the climate activists are at it again. They are saying that mining companies who don't pay tax on their diesel because it's not being used on road and it's not road tax are getting a subsidy from the taxpayer. So we might look at what a subsidy is and whether that's actually true. What do you reckon?
That sounds good, mate. That should be a good little one. Yep. And yeah, Persia reckons that you should look after yourself, Bruce. At the moment, the poll was, 50-50. Some people saying that you should, you can have an early mark, and otherwise, but yeah. Anyway, directors, it's up to you, mate. But no, the show must go on.
All right. Well, at the moment, it'll go on. I might mute myself for a cough at some point. Now, to start with, a couple of important updates. First off, a shout out to a new met friend of the channel, Captain Cutlery. I was walking out the door of the local Mitre 10 the other day, and a chappie strolled up to me and stuck his hand out, and I think he said, "Hello, Flying Doc." And I looked at him because I didn't know it was. And he said, "You don't know me, but I watch the show." I said, "Oh, really?" And he said, "Yeah, my handle is Captain Cutlery, and I see he has pinged in a couple of times there." So there's at least 2 watchers in the little town just up the street from me. At least 2 people, 2 locals watching the show. So I got my daughter to grok up an icon for you, Captain Cutlery. So there you go. You can use that.
Oh, I love it. Good work. It's funny too, like here locally at home, I've been sort of bumping into a few people through, other people I know, and I've had the same thing. It's like, oh, hang on a minute. Oh, no, he's got. Don't worry, he hasn't dropped off. He's just taken himself off because he's got to blow his hooter. That's gold. But anyway, yeah, I've seen a couple of people too, Bruce, in my journeys, and they've said, "Oh yeah, no, what's your show?" So it's nice to know that we're sort of getting out there, So Carl's going to catch up to us eventually, but he's still got a bit of work to do.
There you go. Right. So now here's the other thing, and I did mention yes that it's the last 24 hours of Pride Week. So if you haven't got enough pride bursting out of you, you haven't got much time to do it. And if you do miss out, fear not, because it's not the last opportunity you're going to have. And so again, I did a quick question of the AIs, and apparently every day is Pride Day, not just the month that they've got, a whole month. Can you believe it? They've got a whole lot of other things. So just for the rest of the year, what have we got? We've got International Non-Binary People's Day next month. We've got Wear It Purple Day the month after that in August, which is to show support for LGBTQIA+. We got Bi Visibility Day in September. We've got LGBTQ History Month in October. And
another whole month.
And Trans Awareness Week and Trans Day of Remembrance in November. So you have got a festival you can celebrate basically for the rest of the year, at least something. Like having, in the old days, you thought, would it be nice to have a public holiday once a month? Wouldn't that be more sensible? And you could have one day out of the month. You think, okay, I get a long weekend there. Well, you get a whole year of Pride, apparently.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's right. Well, I mean, it's the same with our Aboriginal brothers and sisters. They pretty much get a day every single month, or a week here and there, and a month as well. I think there's a month for them as well. Anyway, there you go.
And in fact, the first full week of July is NAIDOC week. Did you know that?
There you go. That's the one I was thinking of. Yep.
So it celebrates and recognises the history, culture, and achievement of Aboriginal as Torres Strait Islander peoples. Month might be too long, but we'll see.
Dry July, yep. There you go.
I'm not going to celebrate Dry July, trust me on that. But just on the NAIDOC week, although I couldn't face any red at the moment. So on the NAIDOC thing, as you said, I sort of took some Sudafed and went off to the CFA course. And again, they went through the old, we welcome elders past, present, and blah, blah, blah. And again, I mean, military taught me, The standard you walk past is the standard you accept. So I said, wait. I said, that's not very inclusive. That doesn't include my ancestors. And the facilitator said, yep, I recognise your ancestors as well. So I would invite everybody to do this. And you'll get it fixed. Because the presenters, their heart's not in it. They're just reading the bloody script, same as a doctor.
Yeah.
And it's on every... Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so we did that. Oh, and by the way, they handed out this sort of student particular sheet for the second course, the electrical safety course. So it had a whole lot of things in it. It had, your name. It had your preferred gender. So I ticked other. It had, didn't say pronoun, but it said, form of address or title. So I did what I always do. I wrote Lord. And I ticked I was Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander in those boxes. Now, the reason I do this is because of something that I think it was Benjamin Franklin said, or might have been Lincoln. He said the best way to change an unjust law is to enforce it strictly. If everybody ticked Aboriginal on every form, it would instantly become useless. So that's why I do that. All right. And like I say, won't be celebrating Dry July. But we have got Disability Pride Month, if you want that. So it's recognised throughout the entire month of July, so it's a whole month, to celebrate disabled individuals, challenge ableism and promote visibility.
Okay, that's not very inclusive, because why weren't they included in the actual Pride Month in June, Bruce? Because is that saying that they're actually different? That's a bit of a quagmire. So they've got to, yeah. So it
It's
means
not very
people,
inclusive, Mark.
It's not very inclusive at all, is it? No, I guess not. No. Well, there's an interesting one here.
Head and Neck Cancer Awareness Month coming up in July. So July appears to be shared between Disability Pride, NAIDOC Week and Head and Neck Cancer and Dry July. So clearly none of those worthy causes are anywhere near as worthy as Pride Month was, because Pride Month didn't have to share, did it?
No, that's right. It had a month all to itself.
Yep. Now, speaking of inclusion, once again, I did notice that the various gender spectrum celebrations are not very inclusive either, because once again, I could find no furry Pride Month. And I even asked the Googles to see if there was one. And apparently furry pride has to be shared with LGBTQIA+, I guess plus F month. So they were just attacked on, a token as last month, from what I can tell. Not very inclusive, Mark. Not very inclusive.
Not very inclusive at all. How many? There's about 130 of them so far. Isn't there different genders?
What about just other? Couldn't you just tick other? Wouldn't that cover it?
If everybody just did other, then that would solve the problem, I guess.
All right. Now, here are a number of minority groups that don't have their own Pride Month either. And I Googled all of these. So is there a taxpayers month? There's not, Mark. There's no taxpayer Pride Month. How about that? Is there a masculinity month?
No. Can't have that.
Not really. They get one day in November, but it's really about prostate cancer. It's not really a masculinity thing.
And that's been taken over too. Last time I looked into that, that was taken over too by some. I think it's being run by 3 women. It was started by some blokes for that cause, and now I think it's been run by 3 women.
What is a woman, Mark?
Yeah, true that. How dare! I've got to give myself an uppercut again. I'll have to take that on notice, Bruce.
There's no hardworking, decent, middle-aged white guy month either. I specifically look for that. No, nothing. Not even a Christian month, Mark. Everybody misses out.
Well, we get Easter and we get Christmas, and they're trying to cancel all that as well, mate. So yeah, they're trying really hard to. But yeah, Masculinity Month would be hard because they'd want to call it Toxic Masculinity Month, probably, Bruce.
Yes. Anyway, none of those minority groups are going to get their own week or month because the Pride calendar is simply too full as it is. But you might remember a week or two ago was Father's Day in the UK and the US, not here, but and so there are quite a few father memes coming out of the US, and I rather like this one. If masculinity is toxic, people who grew up without fathers would be better off than those with fathers. So there goes that. There's that claim. Interesting. The sociology literature is rock solid clear on this. Children who grow up in a house with a mother and a father do the best. Not with two mummies, not with one mummy, not with far and away the best results are traditional families. Who'd have thunk it, Mark? Who'd have thunk it?
Who would have?
And particularly toxic men or boys growing up in fatherless homes. Because they get fathered by their mothers and it doesn't work.
No. Yeah, well, Bruce, as you know, I've been writing a bit, and I've been getting these old academic papers that downloaded a couple of articles and stuff, and I've been getting them through thick and fast for over 12 months now, and some of the titles of these papers, and I'll continue to get them because I look at them and see what they're talking about, and trans and intersex people discrimination, unsex mothering, towards a new future. There's all these titles. It's crazy. The sort of stuff the academia writes on all this as well, and obviously this plays into a lot of the policies and that happen too. And one of the articles I wrote shows how it's actually affected the changes to the sex discrimination laws and that here in Australia as well, plus the people funding it as well. So, yep, it's well and truly captured.
Now, just harking back to the ticking all the boxes, there's a couple of comments here. Alana Lani said, if you migrated from New Zealand, could you still get away with ticking all the boxes? And we had this one from COVID Scamdemic. Most of the forms now say Aboriginal or Torres Strait, not Indigenous. Answer is yes. A big part of the whole stolen identity movement of the left is they rigidly avoid any sort of objective criteria. If you identify as something, you are that something. If you identify as a woman, you're a woman. If you identify as a cat, you're a cat. Because they cannot have any sort of objective test for any of these stupid ideas because people just fail them. So they've actually shot themselves in the foot by deliberately having no objective criteria. So yes, I can tick Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander on every box. And I do, and nobody questions it, because you'll get into big trouble. Oh, everyone knows that's too prickly. You're not allowed to do that. And as my mate Dave said, he's got the perfect response in a completely blank face. If anybody ever questions him, he just says, "You don't get blacker than me, mate." And nobody goes there. Nobody goes there. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yep.
Not easy.
Well, and Trish said we have International Women's Day, yet can't define what a woman is, so we can't have it. And I think they were trying to actually get rid of Mother's Day and Father's Day. There's a big kind of thing going on when Mother's Day and Father's Day rocks up. Is that you can't you want to change that to some sort of person's day or something like that. So
it was gestating and non-gestating parent day.
That's right. Yes, that's right. So anyway, that's where we're at. That's where we're at. What is a woman, Bruce?
Where's my Chesterton's fence slide? Anything to tear down the things that built this country and this society. Anything, just destroy it. Burn the lot down.
Yeah. All right. El Nino.
Not easy. Now, we've had the super duper mega death to all Godzilla El Nino a couple of times recently. And there's a bit of bad news for the climate botherers here, and a great example of Brett Weinstein's complex systems. So apparently reducing pollution warms the earth. Did you know that?
All right. Is that right?
So
Reducing
it turns
pollution.
out, yes, that's right. So if we want a cooler planet, we've got to have more exhaustive air. And this follows from this story, which notes that in 2020, international shipping emissions standards changed the allowable amount of sulfur in bunker fuel. That's the fuel that the big diesels in ships run on. And it reduced it markedly. So as a result, the amount of sulfur particulates coming out of the stack of a ocean-going ship was significantly reduced. Now, what that did was it reduced the formation of clouds, because that sulfur was a little nidus that water molecules could stick to and start to form a raindrop, and a suspended raindrop is cloud. So the changes that they made to save the planet in 2020 are actually they're accelerating our death slide into the thermal Armageddon. So here's what the story said. Aerosols sourced from global shipping industry affect clouds. On January 1, 2020, new International Maritime Organization, IMO regulations on the sulfur content of international shipping fuel took effect. The IMO 2020 regulation reduced the maximum sulfur content from 3.5% to 0.5%. Whilst IMO 2020 is intended to benefit public health by decreasing aerosol loading, this decrease in aerosols can temporarily accelerate global warming by dimming clouds. So, remember all the celebrations, because COVID came along not long after that, and there was a marked reduction in transport. So there was significantly less hydrocarbons burned. And everybody said, the skies are clear, isn't it great? Yeah, it might be great, but it means the planet's getting hotter faster. And I do wonder whether the current 3-month-long reduction in shipping from the Persian Gulf is already doing that. And put both those things together, does this explain why we've got this super duper mega never before in our history El Nino? Maybe it's our attempts to save the planet have actually ended up making it even hotter, if you believe that Thermageddon is a thing. I don't.
Well, what we really need, Bruce, is another volcano to fart, and put all that stuff up in the atmosphere, and we'll see, we'll cool things down a bit more again.
I think it's okay if it does, as long as we tax it.
Yeah, tax the volcano. Don't worry, they'll work a way to do it. They'll work on a way to do it.
And you might remember last week we were saying that the heat content of the oceans is far more than the heat content of the atmosphere. So effectively, the atmosphere can never warm the oceans because there's just not enough heat there. And in fact, most of the heat at the surface of the planet comes from subsurface volcanoes. And Ian Plimer, the South Australian geologist, said there might be 1 million volcanoes on the seabed, and we don't know about virtually any of them.
Yeah.
And so if they erupt, they put vast amounts of heat and carbon and sulfur and you name it into the bottom of the ocean. Never comes out the top, but you get particles and warmth going into the ocean. And of course, we don't know where these things are. They're certainly not included in the climate change models. So probably the most significant source of ocean heat is not even included. And we can't include it. We don't know it, can't quantify it.
Yeah, that's right. Those oceans so vast, we don't even know what's at the bottom of it. That's right.
Now, if you want to know how important the sun is in determining the surface temperature of the Earth, and this sort of probably keyholes into, the doom temperatures being experienced in the European summer at the moment. On a summer's day here in Western Victoria, it might dip down overnight to, pick a number, 15 or 20 degrees Celsius. And if it's a hot day, it might go up to 40. So I'm getting a 20 degrees Celsius variation in temperature in the course of a day.
Mm.
That ain't coming from carbon dioxide changes. Something else has a far stronger effect on temperatures, air temperatures, surface temperatures, than CO2. And you see that every day. And by the way, we survive. We survive that range of temperatures. And that thing, of course, is the sun. And the sun is largely also not included in all the climate change models. And clouds shade the earth, just like trees shade the earth. Those sheep are smart enough to know that it's cooler under shade.
Mm-hmm.
Our wise climate scientists apparently have not noticed that. They don't factor clouds in. And now that we're getting less clouds because we cleaned up the ships, it's going to get hotter.
Mm.
No one could have predicted this, Mark.
No. Yeah, it takes better men than us, from apparently, Bruce, the experts, right? The experts. Got to trust them.
Now, I wouldn't trust the UN because the UN still wants to do the carbon is evil thing. And so the UN is currently proposing a carbon tax on ships and aircraft.
Mm.
So if they do that, there'll be less of those exhausts going in the atmosphere. It's going to get even hotter.
Mm.
So, yeah, our wise rulers really have no idea. They think they can pull one lever in a complex system and predict what happens. They have no idea, and they don't even know what half the levers are. They don't know about cloud. They don't know about subsurface volcanoes, etc., etc.
Mm.
Anyway, trust the experts. It's all sciencey, Mark. It's all, it's hard. It's sciencey.
Mm. Yeah, no, well, yeah. What would we know, Bruce? What would we know?
Okay, what do I know about finance? Well, everything's down this week. Most of those things are bad, but oil being down is good. So all the monies are down, 1 to several percent. Silver's still down. Now, silver dropping makes no sense to me because the imbroglio in the Middle East has been consuming thousands of missiles. Now, depending on the size of a missile, there's significant amounts of silver in every missile. It's used in batteries, it's used in electrical systems, it's used in seeker heads, and they have fired off probably tens of thousands of missiles in the Gulf, and it ain't over yet. So that's going to be a huge pull factor for silver in the future. There's going to be demand there. The other thing is that the solar industry is clearly going to get a boost out of this. People are going to look at, okay, if hydrocarbon fuels are more expensive, less reliable, what else can we use? So that's going to be a boost to the solar industry. Solar panels also are a major consumer of silver. So given those two things, it makes no sense to me that silver is going down the way it is, and I think it's a temporary phenomenon.
Yeah.
And at the bottom there, we got Brent crude oil down to 73. Remember, it was up over $100 2 or 3 weeks ago. As discussed last week, the market is lying to you. The macro picture in no way supports an oil price that cheap. The situation in the Gulf is not over. Even if it was over, the systems have not returned to normal. There's lots of damage there. That is, don't be fooled by that. Take the opportunity to go out and fill your jerry can with cheap diesel. But I do not for a moment think that it's all over and we're back to cheap oil again. I have no reason to suspect that. And of course, the government's going to add back in 20 cents of the fuel excise discount starting in a couple of days. So you're looking at a bump up in fuel prices there as well.
Yeah. Well, they're good at hiding figures and fudging stuff and manipulating stuff, aren't they?
Yep, it's all made up. It's all fake. And this might also tell you why it ain't over. So prior to the Gulf War starting 3.5 months ago, Iran was a prickly country in the region, but they had an 80-year-old religious leader who had issued a fatwa, a religious order, that said Iran will never have nuclear weapons because it's immoral to drop them on civilians. So Iran had a 40-year duration religious edict that said we will not develop nuclear weapons. So after 3.5 months of being relentlessly attacked by two nuclear-armed states, the US and Israel, this story came out today that said the Iranian Revolutionary Guard said, you know what, you forced us to do it. We don't want nukes, but we're going to have them because nobody's bombing North Korea at the moment. And the difference is that the North Koreans can pull the nuclear lever. So it's possible that the US may have actually forced Iran's hand here, and we may end up out of this with a nuclear-armed Iran. Now, a nuclear-armed Iran is going to be even less likely to roll over to Israeli and US demands, and Israel and US are going to be less likely to hurt the Iranians. So again, oil prices at $70 a barrel makes no sense to me, particularly when stuff like this is still coming out. I reckon I'm going to wait until Christmas, and then I'm going to see what the price is, and then I'll tell you whether I was wrong or not.
Yeah, give it a little bit of time, but yeah, that's all right. Yeah.
And by the way, the previous Ayatollah Khomeini, who was an 80-year-old religious figure, was killed in an airstrike that injured his son, the new Ayatollah Khomeini, and killed half the new Ayatollah's family, his wife, his daughter. So they've replaced an old Ayatollah who said no nukes with a new one who's had half his family murdered. That might be an incentive him to say, you know what, I'm going to issue a new fatwa.
Yep. Well, this is all this to destabilize, isn't it? All these things to destabilize. Keep us all distracted, worried. No, yeah, so much winning. So much winning.
Too much winning, Mark. We've got the health report. What have we got in the health report? Yes. So more good news about ivermectin as an anti-cancer agent. So here we got a case report from Canada where an 88-year-old farmer with quite severe skin cancers on his face, and me looking at them, I think they're SCCs, but haven't had a good look, was apparently sent some tubes of ivermectin paste by his son, which he started rubbing on the cancers, and this is the result. So 3 weeks later, according to this case report, this 88-year-old man with multiple skin cancers, the skin is healed, they're cured. Now, that's a one-off, that's a single case report, but apparently there have been hundreds of similar case reports made in the alternate health arena. So I think this has got potential too.
Wow.
And if you look at the timing of it, you know, one of the things with other cancers is, you know, got to cut it out now before it spreads. SCCs and BCCs grow slowly locally. So you've probably got time to paste it on for 2 or 3 weeks and just get a feel for whether it's going to work for you. Can't see any reason not to. So, and as we know with ivermectin, for those people who are too scared to get on the wrong side of their doctor in case they get in trouble, you can do this as well as whatever the conventional treatment is. If you're on chemotherapy for something, you can take ivermectin as well. You don't even have to tell your doctor if you're scared of getting in trouble. So, interesting.
Very interesting. So you get it in a paste as well, eh?
Look, apparently, and I don't know what the form was, and I don't know if it was horse paste, and you want to look at what else is in a horse paste, but hey, it looks great. I mean, you could get the powder that you can get here and just dissolve it into a paste and just dab it on. Put a Band-Aid over the top. So, yeah, interesting, I thought.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yes.
Well, you think there'll be any independent studies on that, Bruce? Now, you know, to do proper studies on that. You know, they don't want stuff like this studied, do they?
Any minute now they'll be starting those, Mark. Any minute.
I'm sure.
All right. More bad news for the people who think you can cure a dietary disease with a non-dietary input, drugs. More new side effects for the Ozempic class of drugs. So you can add to Ozempic face and Ozempic butt, you can now add Ozempic teeth, because apparently there are increasing numbers of reports of people getting severe dental damage, probably from mouth dryness. And if your mouth is dry, your teeth are not bathed in saliva, they dry out, the gums become diseased, and you get decay. So there are stories that, some people are getting severe dental decay as yet another one of the benefits of being on Ozempic.
Yeah. Yes, many benefits.
Well, when you think about it, okay, so if you get bad trouble with your teeth, I guess you got to get some other healthcare worker to do something about that.
Mm-hmm.
Just a thought.
Mm-hmm.
Second profit line.
Yes, it's a very good business model, isn't it? And I don't think you can't get ivermectin over the counter. It's got to be prescribed there, but you can source it elsewhere.
You can get it over the counter at the fodder store pretty easily.
Yes, that's right. Pretend you live on a farm and you can buy it.
You can buy it on eBay, no questions asked. Just pay for it, and they get sent to you.
Yep.
There's ways. Where there's a will, there's a way, Mark.
There is.
Oh. Righto. And that sort of feeds into this story on Peter McCullough's site this week, where he's noted that the Ozempic cure has been swallowed big time. It's really popular, and bariatric surgery, so weight loss surgery, is suffering. So weight loss surgeries are down by about a third in the US, and the Ozempic class of drugs are up by more than double. So a significant number of people have stopped trying to treat their obesity with surgery and instead trying to treat their obesity with drugs. And they're both a bit of a shame, really, because they both have severe side effect profiles. They have significant costs, and they don't address the root cause. Obesity is a dietary illness. Any attempt to do anything other than a dietary cure is bound to result in failure and complications, in my opinion.
Jace, we've used a bit of humour again here, mate. You can't get the topical liquid ivermectin for parrots. Only problem, you can't stop whistling and saying Polly want a cracker. Good on you, Jace. Thanks for that.
I don't know if it's used for birds.
Don't know. You never know. What do they? Birds get some of those.
Well, they get mites, I guess.
Yeah.
That might be that's one of the least offensive comments Jace has ever put up. So
least offensive. Yes, no. Well done. You've held yourself back, Jace. Good work.
Yeah. Do better. On to government, huh? So as noted last week, Starmer was resigning as we went to air last week. He's gone. Sir Keir.
Yep. Come on, Alba.
And I think a significant incentive for this is that the increasing Saxon pushback. So the Indigenous Britons are finally reaching the we've had enough point. They've noticed the damage that immigration is doing to their country. They've noticed the damage that green policies are doing to their country. And their tolerance bucket is pretty much exhausted. And so they're starting to take to the streets. And this is a Western phenomenon. So we've seen it in Britain. We've seen it in Australia. And West, by the way, means populations originally sourced from Western Europe.
Yeah.
So you're looking at the white Protestant, some Catholic, I guess, populations from England that went to America, Canada, New Zealand, etc., Australia. That's the West. Now, parts of that end of Europe are also called the West, Western Europe, but in the Anglosphere, it was the diaspora from England and the West, add to that in the West, you've got Western European nations, so France, Germany, Italy, etc. And the Indigenous citizens of those countries are waking up across the board. So we've seen nationalist rallies in Ireland. We've seen nationalist rallies in France. And nationalist means ordinary, decent Indigenous citizens saying, we liked our country the way it was. We don't like what you're doing to it. We've seen it in Germany. Now, that's evidence of hundreds of millions of people standing up in democracies and saying to their government, you're not listening to us. We don't like what you're doing. And they're starting to escalate. They're starting to shout louder because they're not being heard. And we know that our governments aren't listening to us. They didn't listen to us during The Voice. Neither Labor nor Liberal listened to people about mass immigration and housing pressures. They don't care about the wishes of the people. So the people are and will be becoming more and more restless. So I thought these two quotes from Napoleon were illustrative because this explains what happens when governments go too far in opposing the will of the citizens. So on the left, you've got, whenever a king sees that his people will revolt against him, he starts fighting with another country. And on the right, also from Napoleon, you've got, war is when the government tells you who the bad guy is. Revolution is when you decide that for yourself. That second quote has also been attributed to Benjamin Franklin, so I don't know which of the two. But note how in both cases, war was when the government told you who the bad guy was, and revolution is when the citizens saw through that and made up their own mind. And in both cases, making up your own mind was, actually, I realised the government's the enemy. Not the guy across the border, it's the guy in the capital. So, and that's why it's called revolution. So, given that the unrest throughout Europe and the Anglosphere, it's being generated by governments ignoring the citizens and the citizens waking up to the fact, we may be watching the early stages of revolution here.
Yeah, exactly right. As Lani said there, it's easier to throw your people into the meat machine than to govern fairly and responsibly, because God forbid you'd want to do that, eh?
Yep. Gerald Celente said, when all else fails, they take you to war. And I can't remember who to attribute this to, but there was another quote which said, patriotism is the last refuge of the scoundrel. So, yeah, the rally round the flag thing is a distraction when governments are increasingly on the nose. So with the reference to, okay, the government's trying to distract their people with war, it appears that Germany's doing that. So Germany is building up a massive army, and Britain is starting to talk about war with Russia as well. So it appears that at least some of the nations of Europe that are threatening revolt are getting to the point where they're looking at the war option rather than the revolution option.
Wow. So Germany feels that Russia isn't doesn't have the capacity to go to war against them for 13 years, Bruce. So they're going to say, well, we've got 13 years. It's almost like they know this. They're clairvoyants or something, Bruce. Right? It's like, yes, 13 years, and we should be all right.
Well, Putin actually responded to that sort of suggestion that maybe Poland said the same thing, well, if we have to go to war with Russia, we'll do it. But Vladimir Putin, the Russian president, wrote this open letter to the citizens of Germany regarding that, Germany, we've got to defend ourselves from the Ruskies. So Putin said, we don't want to attack you. Why would we? Those times are long gone. Anyone who is still in their right mind and can think clearly understands that. First, you already have a national debt amounting to 2.5 trillion euros, and no serious economist has any idea how you ever plan to pay that back. And now you want to take on another 1 trillion euros to arm yourselves against us. Do you want the Russian people to foot that bill? Never. Second, your country is teeming with millions of migrants who cost you 50 billion euros a year. Should the Russian people be held accountable for that? Third, a considerable portion of your population is so deranged that they believe they can influence the climate by cycling and eating insects. Perhaps this massive brain damage could be fixed, but that would cost us something too, a lot. This is the Russian president to the people of Germany. Fourth, your education system was once exemplary. Now in many classrooms, hardly any teaching takes place anymore because almost no one speaks German. Fifth, your infrastructure is crumbling and you can't keep up with the repairs. Sixth, your railways were once the pride of the entire world. Now your trains run like they do in India.
Wow. Burn. Big burn.
Seventh, we don't need your famous engineers. During the sanctions, we learnt that we can get by without them. But if we do need them after all, we'll turn to China. They are not only cheaper, but better. Eighth, you have neither raw materials nor energy sources, so why would we conquer your country? To solve problems we wouldn't even have had otherwise. Realistically speaking, even if you called us, surrendered and raised the white flags, we still wouldn't come.
Wow. What a burn. Well, anything not right about that?
Apply that to Australia, to New Zealand, to America, to Britain, to France. I mean, there's a lot of crossover in the entire decline of Western culture. All mentioned there. All mentioned there. A lot of that's applicable across the board.
Yep. It's absolutely a pearler. Oh, that would have been so funny. They would have classed that in World War I and II as like a little dropping of pamphlets. It would have been propaganda, wouldn't it?
That's right.
Drop that with now that you've got social media and other things, you don't need to drop it with aeroplanes, leaflets in the street to propagandize.
Just tweet it out.
What a burn.
All right. On to Trust Me, I'm an Expert segment. Now, you and I have noticed recently that experts really aren't competent in anything anymore, are they? They get everything wrong. You know, the doctors, the lawyers, the judges, the climate scientists, the economists, you name it. You can't trust any of them. They can't be relied on to be right in the fields that they're apparently experts in. And I saw this posting on a blog the other day, which I think explains it very well. So I'm going to read it. A degree proves you can learn what you were taught. It does not prove the teaching was perfect. It does not prove the model is complete. It does not prove the system is right. University can train you to repeat a framework really well. It can also train you not to question the framework because your whole career sits on it. Real learning is staying curious, reading outside your lane, checking what changed since you trained, and being willing to say, I might be wrong. Doesn't that sum up the last few years? You know, all our highly trained experts are all wrong because what they were taught was wrong, and they're not analytical enough to detect that.
Yep.
You know, it's why 95% of my colleagues are still practicing medicine, happily taking the coin, when I wouldn't go back if you paid me. I don't want to lower myself to that. I don't want to prostitute myself to that.
Yep. Yeah, that's why a lot of people are looking at other things, alternatives and other things. The downside of that, though, is that some people will look for kooky things that might actually harm them. You know what I mean? So, which is it was the other downside.
Yeah, well, at least if you make your own bad decisions, you suffer the consequences.
That's right.
It's same as the system we got now. If the government makes bad decisions, you suffer the consequences. The same thing.
Well, this is right. And dictated too. That's exactly right. Yep, that's right.
Anyway, I thought that summed it up beautifully. So there you go. All right. Now on to the Karl Stefanovic segment, because he's been in the news a bit this week. And it's speaking of discovering that you could be wrong, Karl Stefanovic has clearly been red-pilled. He's discovered that he was wrong. He used to be a very good employee of the MSM, the mainstream media. He read the line. He went and rolled up his sleeve on TV. So that's where he was a couple of years ago. So let's bring him up. Let me look which one's that. It's Karl and Ali. So here's where he was.
You found it? I'll take this one off.
Hang on.
No, you're right.
Was it playing? I'll start again.
No, start again. Bring it up. Bring it up on the stage. It's not on the stage yet. I just took the other one off.
Yeah, I think if there's too many screens, it doesn't come up. Okay. All right. So let's that one. There we go. Okay, got a thing now. There we go. So this is where Karl was during the early part of COVID.
We got the Pfizer jab.
Yep, there's been so much talk surrounding the COVID-19 vaccinations, we decided to bring along our camera to give you guys at home an idea of what to expect.
I'm at the mass vaccination centre at Sydney Olympic Park. They do 5,000 jabs here a day. There's 200 registered midwives and nurses on call. This place is quite extraordinary, and Karl and I were getting our jab today, but he's a bit of a sook when it comes to needles, so he may have chickened out. I'm going to give him 5 more minutes. Ow! I thought you chickened out.
What?
Yeah.
The needle?
No, you're
Are you
late.
serious?
You're late. Come on.
Because I had to park like 5 kilometres away.
Whatever, let's
and you
go.
got dropped off.
I managed to get
Why do you get special? I don't know.
Straight ahead there on your left-hand side. Too easy. Thank you. Do you have any tissues? Just my colleague, he might cry when he gets his needle. I just want to make sure there's a tissue nearby for him. Just in case you cry.
I'm getting very emotional. Having to wait for you again.
All right, let's do this. Relax your arm.
Oh, good little girl, Ali. Good girl. Look at you.
Didn't actually see it go in.
And a lollipop?
She's tough.
You're part of the 40 to 49 age group? Yes.
The lower end of that, of course.
Can you roll up your sleeve for me? Stay nice and relaxed. Hold on to that.
I remember the viewership for Channel 9 was at the time, or how many people they coaxed to be able to get it because of.
You want me, I want you, baby. My sugar boo, I'm levitating.
Well, that was painless. Fantastic. And Ali and I feel all right. I mean, obviously she doesn't look the best. But we do feel fine. Are there any people that get side effects when you see?
A lot of people feel a bit unwell, a bit like after the flu shot, a bit virally, a bit of headache, muscle aches and pain, but they tend to settle down usually after about 24 hours.
I thought he'd flake when he saw the needle. He was a lot braver than I was anticipating, to be honest.
That's good to know.
So we've had our first Pfizer jab. What happens now?
As you're booking for today, you get a booking in 3 weeks' time.
Mm-hmm.
So you get the second Pfizer jab at usually 21 days, so maybe sometimes 3 to 4 weeks. And you've had both immunisations, and usually a week after that, you're essentially immune as you are following a COVID immunisation.
Do we have any immunity now or after the first jab?
Look, you do have some immunity, but most evidence suggests you really need the 2 jabs to be as immune as you can.
We're still under 50. We're under 50. We're under 50.
You're not for much longer.
You're not far behind. Thank you so much for giving us a chance to see it firsthand and to get the injection. We feel great.
Yeah,
No,
absolutely.
great. Thank
Was
you
that
for
singing
coming.
a side effect?
So a couple of points about that. First off, I didn't think Karl looked well then. He looked pudgy and unwell to me.
Yeah, he did actually. Yeah, he sounded a bit sniffly too, to be honest.
But he did what he was told. He lined up for the media opportunity, although we didn't see Ali's needle go in. Did you notice that? It was behind the arm. So maybe it did, maybe it didn't. And, of course, even if you see the needle go in, you got no idea what's in the syringe.
Yeah, that's right.
Water. So. Now, note in the story, when he asked about side effects, the director of the centre, who's clearly one of those doctors who's good at learning but not good at analysing, He just repeated the bland, oh, you know, you might feel a bit sort of hot and sweaty for a day or two, but it's just working, you know, it's pretty much cool. I didn't hear him say anything about immune suppression or cancer risk or myocarditis or cerebral venous thrombosis. I didn't hear any of those things. So he hadn't done his homework. He was just doing the old, oh, yeah, you know, just, you know, it's a flu shot. You'll be a bit fluey. That's all. No, nothing to worry about. And notice when the question was asked about immunity, the answer was, yeah, well, you know, you're not really fully immune until you've had your second shot, which is 3 weeks after this one. And in fact, it's 2 weeks after that. So this illustrates one of the major frauds that was used during the COVID era to manufacture apparent effectiveness of the shots. So you were classified as unvaccinated until 2 weeks after your second shot. In other words, at least 5 weeks after your first shot. So what that meant is that any side effects that occurred in the first 5 weeks were not put in the vaccinated basket, they were put in the unvaccinated basket. And we know that a significant number of people got really sick really quickly. They either got COVID or they got myocarditis. Some of them dropped dead early on in close association. So this was part of the fraud that allowed them to show that there were, you know, the side effects are worse in the unvax group. Yeah, because you've fraudulently shifted all the 5 weeks in vax people into the unvax group. So that was part of that fraud. So nice illustration of that. I've got to cut that one off, don't I? So, yep. Okay, back to us. Where are we at? This techie stuff's hard. All right. So that was how Carl and Ali started. I think that was in 2021. But by 2023, Carl's opinion was clearly changing because there was this interaction with Deputy Australian Federal Chief Health Officer Cho, Nick Coatsworth, where he told him on camera that he wasn't a big fan of the COVID shots and he was done. So he wasn't being a good little vax promoter by that stage. So I'll play you what he said at that point.
That was 2023.
So that would be that one.
And given that only 4 out of 10 Australians have had the 4th dose, I think you can probably bet that the number getting the 5th will be less.
As you know, I'm not a glowing ambassador for more than 2 shots. I've just decided that I've had COVID a couple of times and I'm done with the vaccines. There's a big chunk of Australia that is done with it, and there's another chunk that is happy to keep having them.
And
all right, so a definite change of tone there, I thought, didn't you?
I know there was definitely a change of tone. Yeah, that was 2023.
Now, he noticed also, he said, look, I've had 2 shots and I've still got COVID twice.
Yeah.
Now, he was so passive-aggressive at this point. I don't think it was just that he got COVID twice. I wonder whether he got a vax injury as well. The mask is clearly slipping by 2023 with Carl. But he went along with it for quite a while longer. And it wasn't until 3 months ago that he actually stood up and said, look, I'm sorry, I was wrong and I shouldn't have done it. And I've been pretty hard on him up till now because I hadn't seen the clip that I'm about to play you. And it wasn't a full apology, but it went pretty close. So let's look at Carl admitting, yeah, I got it wrong and I shouldn't have done it.
Yeah, a little too late, but still a little too late.
A little bit because it's often mentioned in the comments. Like I said, I read them all because I'm genuinely interested in how people view things. The one thing they say about me is that I supported the COVID jab, and I have regrets from that time.
Yeah,
and I am definitely sorry for the role I played in not questioning the science, in not questioning more the government mandates. And I feel like I isolated people because of that. And I don't think the media should be involved in that kind of messaging. What I do believe is that we should have been there to offer some sort of education, but we shouldn't have taken that step further and been part of a campaign. And I'm legitimately sorry for that, because I don't know how that would have felt for people out there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's not a textbook apology, but it's good enough. He said I was wrong, and I regret that, and I'm sorry. So yeah, I'll take that. I will forgive him for being wrong, particularly now that he's kicked on from that to actually start do things to make amends. And you'd be aware in the last few months he started running his own podcast show at the same time as he's still working his gig at Channel 9. I think he's done that because he knows his time at 9 is up.
Well, there was talk about his contract ending at the end of the year. So I'm just wondering, Bruce, whether the podcast setup was to get him, set up and sorted before his contract was meant to finalise. Now, I don't know. I'm not a fly on the wall whether Channel 9 approached him and said, "Look, Carl, we're not renewing your contract in December," which in my mind probably makes a lot of sense. And look, I've got to take it at face value and look at Carl and all he's done. He's done the apology. He's openly admitted to people that he was wrong and he's apologised. In my heart of hearts, do not feel that it was genuine. I feel that and I can be proven wrong. I'm happy to be thrown down by people, all the Carl admirers and all that. And I'm a Christian myself, and it's about forgiveness and that, but it's about also genuine repentance. Now, in my heart of hearts, without knowing the full truth, knowing that his contract was finishing in December, it was Carl setting himself up, getting himself organised. This latest him being sacked early, or the contract ending earlier, was obviously in relation to Ben Roberts-Smith discussions, and also Tommy Robinson. There was some pretty, challenging interviews for the establishment that they went, "Look, mate, we're gonna finish this earlier than what it was meant to do." That's my take on it. I truly wish that Carl is absolutely repentant, and I've got to take him on face value for that. I'm not feeling it within my heart, and that's just where I am. But I've got to give him the benefit of the doubt, Bruce.
And for once, I'm on the sort of more accepting side than you, and that's unusual. Look, all I've seen of his apology was that with, I think it's Gerard Rennick, isn't it? I don't know what else he said elsewhere. I don't know what the context of that was. He hasn't, wrapped his arms around me and said, "Mate, I'm so sorry, I got it wrong." But then again, I didn't listen to him anyway, so I don't actually need an apology from him. But
no, that's right.
For me, he's come out and he said, "I'm sorry, I got it wrong." And the next thing you do in an apology is say, "Okay, what am I going to do to make it right?" And he's chosen to leverage off one of his strengths, which is he's got an audience. And he's done a bit of the old Tucker Carlson. He stepped out, and in fact, when he got sacked from Channel 9, he did that little piece to camera in London where he just said, "I'm free," and he sort of jigged away and kicked his heels up. And that looked genuine. And I think that was a good demonstration to people that, yeah, he was being controlled. Now he's free to say what he really wants, and he's actually going to do it. And he started that by interviewing Tommy Robinson. And that is hugely important because that is a country-changing event throughout the entire Western world. So I liked that. And the response to it was interesting. So after his podcast came out where he, gave a platform to this dreaded populist, Tommy Robinson, he got sacked from Channel 9, and he got his podcast taken down on YouTube. Now, almost immediately, it got put back up again because Pauline Hanson put it back up again. And this is an example of why the mainstream media is failing. They want to control the narrative, but there's too many holes in the bucket, and they just can't. And when they get a high-profile critic like him, they try and censor him. They try to censor you. They try to censor me. So they're still falling for the old "we can control the information flow," and they can't. And that's great. And Carl's now got his own platform, and you and I have now got our own platform. 5 years ago, we didn't think that we'd be doing show 114 of basically common sense and an analysis of all the ways that the government's trying to screw you. So something's come out of it, and that's good.
Yeah, 100%. Yep. No, absolutely, mate. And I'm with you there. Full credit to Senator Pauline Hanson for having the courage to put that back up again on her own YouTube channel. And it'd be pretty hard for YouTube to justify, pulling down stuff from a sitting senator, although Craig Kelly got deplatformed and that as well.
Been done.
Yeah, been done before, so it's not out of the thinking. So yeah.
Anyway, Pauline picked him up. It's got over 300,000 views in the few days since she did that, hosting it on the One Nation site. And this is another great example of our old friend, the Streisand effect.
That's right.
So got a little graphic there on the side that explains the Streisand effect. Trying to hide something draws attention to it. And in the case of Barbara Streisand, apparently she tried to suppress photos of her house in, I think, California. It was part of a planning thing going into the local government. And I think there'd been 6 people see the pictures of her place. And she took major legal action to get those pictures suppressed, which ended up with hundreds of thousands of people going, what's she trying to hide? So that's now called the Streisand effect. And I'm sure a lot of people are going, okay, what did Tommy Robinson say that got Carl sacked? They want to see it. So our wise rulers who think they control the flow of information should have learnt by now that the cover-up is always worse than the crime, and they don't. And they should certainly be aware of that after the last couple of weeks. When Albo jumped to the defence of Jacinta Allen about the Ditch the Witch ad that was going around Melbourne on a single truck, which prompted Pauline Hanson to put out a similar truck with Fire the Liar and Albo's picture on it, and a please donate. And it's now raised the best part of $5 million, which is apparently unheard of.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Now, in response, I saw on Channel 9 tonight, the story was, the new polls have come out and Hanson, the gloss has gone off Hanson. She slipped. Labor's back ahead. Yeah, sure. Sure they are. They said, she did a lot of damage to herself at the press club conference. No, she didn't. She told a lot of ordinary people that somebody actually is standing up for their concerns. But yeah, that's how they're framing it. A fake poll that says, yeah, she's blown it. Go switch back. She's no good.
Yeah. It's funny how these things work. It's like, ultimately people get cancelled. How did that work out with Jaguar when they decide to, change their business model and all that? And there might be one to hold over for next week because bonds have just done the same thing. So something similar apparently. So I'll have to dig into that a little bit further.
I might have to start going commando then.
Yeah.
I've certainly stopped using the old Gillette.
Yeah, well, maybe some beard oil, mate. Maybe a bit of beard oil or a bit of shaping cream. You know what I mean? You'll be right. Get it looking pretty flash, I reckon, brother.
Got a bit of WD-40, I think it'd do it.
Yeah, that'll be right. Just don't get it caught up in a lawnmower or a grinder or something.
Now, in a slightly related story where the theme is that, our wise rulers have for a long time controlled the flow of information and it's slipping away and they don't like it. Now, one of the other ways that the state likes to control the flow of information is they compulsorily kidnap your children throughout their whole formative years. That's called public school. And I've said in the past, it's only a matter of time before homeschooling becomes illegal. And this story says that's exactly what's happened here in Brazil, where a family have actually been jailed for homeschooling their children. No allegation was made that the children were ill cared for or ill educated. It's merely they refused to send them to the government indoctrination camp.
Yep. yep, this is how it's getting. This is what they're doing, and look, you know, things will only get worse over here as if we don't challenge this, you know, socialist Labor governments that are in charge. Is, you know, they'll as more and more people realise they better homeschool their kids and also look at other options, they'll start looking at, you know, cancelling all those things and regulating and legislating that away, so you can't do that, and find. Same with backyard gardens, same with chooks, veggie gardens, all that sort of stuff. They'll say, no, look, it's too much of a risk to the environment if it's not controlled properly with the right standards and legislations, and, you know, all that sort of stuff. You can't have your own chooks because you can't have your own eggs, all that sort of stuff, you know, bird flu and all this sort of junk.
I don't think they'll quite outright ban chicken farming. I think they'll regulate it. So you've got to be a registered chicken farmer. You've got to register every chicken. You've got to have a vaccine certificate, you know, every 3 weeks for all of them, et cetera, et cetera. And they could do the same thing with homeschooling. Yeah, you can homeschool your kids, but you've got to be qualified. You've got to be a qualified teacher. You've got to have an approved curriculum. You've got to have inspectors come in. You've got to have a certain area. You've got to have a disabled toilet, you know, like you got to have an autistic corner. They'll just make it impossible.
Yep, no, exactly right. Yeah, and it's in the process, isn't it? Like, it's all about the process to make it harder and harder for you. It's the same as all the court stuff that's happened with doctors and all that. You know, the process is the punishment. Same with all the people speaking out about the LGBT stuff and all that. You know, you look at Kirley Smith, you look at, you know, I think it's Bernard Gaynor, or you look at, you know, Lyle Shelton, all these people that have challenged the, you know, the story time and all that sort of stuff, you know, trans story time, and, you know, saying that sex is binary, you know, women are women, you know, they're getting hauled through the courts by people taking them through that process. The people that are taking them through that process will get funded, government funded lawyers and everything else like that. And so the punishment is actually the process of being put through there, and that's what it's all about. And that'll be the same with registering your chickens, homeschooling, or they'll make it harder and harder for people. And then, you know, the people will just give up and go, okay, you know, state knows best. We'll just let the state do everything. But you know, anyway, until a rebellion happens, I guess.
Fortunately, I seem to have been successful in unschooling my own children. So even without consciously really understanding the need, I seem to have immunised them against most of the ridiculosities of the state.
Yeah.
Created monsters.
Crazy. Imagine those kids. What do you think is going to affect those kids more, being homeschooled or have their parents taken away from them for a number of period of time?
Yeah, they don't care about that.
No, doesn't matter. The kids belong to the state, apparently, Bruce. Anyway, already.
All right. Moving right along. So here's disaster of the week. So there've been twin earthquakes in Venezuela, and as I said, interestingly, normally when you get a major earthquake, you get a series of smaller runoff quakes that we call aftershocks. But it is possible that the first earthquake is the smaller one, and therefore is a foreshock, and the second earthquake is the bigger one. This is the first time I've heard of it happening, but I knew it was possible because I did some reading around the topic of earthquakes after I spent time in Aceh. So in this current one this week in Venezuela, it says the first quake registered magnitude 7.1 and the second one was 7.5. And that's a significant difference, by the way, because I believe between 7 and 8 is a 10x. Each level of the Richter scale is an order of magnitude. So, yeah, it was much bigger, the second one. Now, as I said, I had a bit of an interest in earthquakes because I spent 10 days in Aceh with a disaster relief team after the 2004-5 earthquake and tsunami. And the cause of that disaster was a earthquake that measured in the 7s in the 9s in the Richter scale. So one of the largest earthquakes ever recorded. I don't think there's ever been a 10. There's been a few in the 9s, but 10 is 10 times bigger than a 9. So there was an earthquake in the 9s in Aceh, and that caused major damage in the town. We saw a lot of collapsed buildings, but Even more of the problem was that the tsunami which followed it, which flooded. So you think all those horrific pictures of collapsed buildings where the rescuers pull the odd person out. No, if you're in a collapsed building, even if you're alive, you got drowned by the tsunami 30 minutes later. And interesting, I learned a lot about earthquakes by being in Aceh, because in the 2 weeks or so that I was there, we had daily aftershocks that were in the 7s. So what you would normally call a major earthquake, we called aftershocks, and we had multiple of them every day. And I learnt you could detect them, rather than the earth just starting to shake. What would normally happen is you'd hear way off in the distance this groaning and grinding. The earth was, screaming, and then that would come closer to you, and then the ground would start to move. And it's a very loud noise. Earthquakes are very noisy, and it's not just buildings falling down. The earth itself moving and grinding and groaning is really noisy, and I will never forget that. And in fact, a few years ago, when I still lived in the Adelaide Hills, I remember finding myself on the front lawn, at 2 o'clock in the morning, and a memory of, why the hell is a heavy truck going down my dirt road? And that was an earth tremor. So I'd woken up whilst asleep and got out of the house onto the front lawn whilst still asleep, based on the noise.
Wow, like a freight train.
That's a picture from Aceh, and if you look closely, this is Disaster 101. You can double your surgical operating theatre capacity by putting 2 tables in the same room. So we did about 100 cases, double stacking it, 1 anaesthetic machine between 2 patients and 2 sets of surgical staff around each table.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy days.
Well, chaotic, mate. But what are you going to do when you try and save people's lives? You become pretty messed up.
I learnt so much. And as I said, most of the Aceh damage was not collapsed buildings. It was the tsunami that followed it. And half the town of Aceh, or about 100,000 people, just got ground up in this mash of water and wood and floating bits and pieces. And, yeah, they lost 100,000 people.
Yeah. Oh, look at that. That'd make a massive, turn you into mincemeat being washed around into that stuff in the water. Absolutely right, yeah.
Like being in a washing machine full of knives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, back to Venezuela, I saw on the TV tonight and in the last couple of days, you're getting these miracle survivor stories. As they pull some poor dust-covered person out from a little crack in a building. And even today, they were saying it's a race against time, and this is, this might be the end, this might be the last person. And it's not even 3 days yet. And they're basing that on another fallacy, and that's the fallacy that people can really only survive 3 days without water. So that's where the 3-day. So in sort of survival literature, these are the parameters. You can last 3 minutes without air, 3 days without water, and 3 weeks without food. The latter two are both considerable underestimates. You can go a lot longer than 3 days without water, and you can go a lot longer than 3 weeks without food. And the reason for the water bit is because you can metabolize fat and turn it into water. And that's what camels do. The camel's hump is not full of water. It's full of fat. When you burn fat, one of the products is what they call metabolic water. So you can actually fast and create your own water. And Brett Weinstein spoke about this on Dark Horse podcast a while ago, where he did a 7-day dry fast. And a dry fast means nothing. So 7 days. And he's a 60-year-old professor, nothing special about him. So he managed to go twice as long as the experts would say, voluntarily, whilst he's still doing his podcast. Now, interestingly, he did note that if you're fasting for weight loss, then dry fasting is more efficient because some of the fat is being used for water, not just for energy. Interesting thought.
It is interesting.
So, yeah, forget the 3 days limit. It's not. I think we'll see people pulled out of rubble. We'll see miracle survivors for probably another 10 days or even 14 days from now. So up to two plus weeks in total. Not the 3-day window that's pretty much come to an end. But I'll make a couple of qualifications there. These earthquake survivors that are being dug out of the rubble are not being dug out of the rubble. These are people who've survived in voids in the collapsed buildings. These are not people who are crushed. Because if you are crushed under any significant weight and you can't move, within an hour, the limb or whatever is crushed. If it doesn't kill you outright, within an hour, that limb, because it's not getting a blood supply because it's crushed, dies. And it then seeds off potassium and acids into your body, which kill you. And even if you get those people, say you got a beam across your thighs and you've been there for a couple of hours, if a machine comes along and lifts that beam off, you may well die on the spot because of all the expired blood that's sitting in your legs, which is acidic and got no oxygen. It suddenly rejoins your circulation, rushes around to your heart and kills you. So that's called crash syndrome. So the people that they are digging out are people who've been entombed but not crushed. Nobody's coming out if they've been crushed. So there will be people in voids, and that's why they listen for knocking, and it's why they're trying to burrow their way. You look at the rescue teams, they're burrowing their way into buildings, trying to follow these little voids. They're not sort of getting a crane and lifting all the slabs off one at a time and finding out who's under them, because people don't survive that.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. Interesting. I knew about those crush things for a long time watching movies, and that you see that when they move the car away or whatever, it's like all the toxins in the blood and that starts recirculating and everything.
Yeah. And we used to have ways of treating it, particularly with in the military, where if you got somebody with a tourniquet on, that's effectively a crush injury. The limb below it is cut off from the circulation. So we had specific protocols for staging how you would reintroduce that leg to the circulation. Because if you just take the tourniquet off at hour 3, the person might just drop dead.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
Okie dokie. So I think this is the last segment, the zombie stories segment. Let's have a look. So zombie stories is about stories that just keep coming back, stories that will not die even after they've been debunked. So things like the gender pay gap. Doesn't matter how many times you lay out the data and say there is no gender pay gap, it's caused by different working, different hours, different jobs, different choices. 3 months later, some new interest group will tell you that there's a 17% female gender wage gap. Anyway, another thing that the anti-coal people like pushing out from time to time is that the coal industry is subsidised. Unlike, for example, the wind industry or the solar industry or, the snowy hydro, which are clearly subsidised. Now, here's what activist group Lock the Gate, which is an anti-hydrocarbon fuel group. So Lock the Gate's acting national coordinator, Georgina Woods, said the fuel tax credit scheme was rewarding coal companies with billions of dollars for using diesel, reducing the incentive to shift to clean vehicles to cut emissions. She said it meant companies were effectively claiming a public subsidy to expand coal mining, and the money would be better spent on easing the costs of climate change. So what's she talking about? What is she talking about? This is completely dishonest framing by The Guardian. Colour me shocked, Mark. Because what the basis of the story is that because the miners aren't paying tax on their diesel, well, they are paying it when they buy it, and then they're claiming it back because they shouldn't have paid it. That's what's happening. That getting it refunded, The Guardian and this journalist are framing as a subsidy. They should have paid tax. They didn't pay it. They're getting a taxpayers bailing them out. Okay. And this explains why it's dishonest. So here's what the scheme is. The reason you get a refund if you're a miner and you buy diesel is because diesel has a road user tax on it. And if you're not a road user, you don't have to pay the tax. Now, not that simple. You do have to pay the tax. You get to claim it back. It's not like you can go to a different Bowser at the service station and you don't pay 52 cents a litre. You pay it up front and then you claim it back. And that's under this thing called the fuel tax credit scheme. So here's a description of what that is. The FTC is an Australian government program that allows businesses to claim a credit for the fuel tax included in the price of fuel used for business activities. It effectively reduces the cost of fuel for eligible industries. Okay, who's eligible? The fuel must be used in machinery, plant, equipment, heavy vehicles or light vehicles travelling off public roads. So the Guardian is dishonestly framing the miners industry not paying a tax that they're not required to pay is being framed as a taxpayer subsidy. This is just utterly dishonest. But this is why you will hear that the taxpayer subsidises the mining industry, subsidises coal. No, it's the other way around.
At least they're true to their name, though, Bruce. The Guardian is guarding the truth.
Yes, they're not. They're not right. Okay. And I looked up what is the definition of a subsidy, by the way. So a subsidy is a form of financial assistance or benefit provided by a government organisation to individuals, businesses or industries. So if you get money from the government, that's a subsidy. If you get money from the government, back from the government that they shouldn't have had in the first place, that's a refund. That's not a subsidy. But that's how they dishonestly claim that the taxpayer is subsidising big coal. It's completely
this happens all the time. It's BS. Yeah, it's absolutely BS. It's disingenuous. Absolutely disingenuous.
Dishonest. Now let's apply that that little description there to, let's call it the wind farm industry, a form of financial assistance or benefit provided by a government organisation to individuals, businesses or industry. Does the wind farm industry get subsidised? No. I rather think it does.
Yeah, it does. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, more dishonesty from the Guardian and the industry groups.
Of course.
And finally, to take us out at just over 2 hours and just over 2:22 sniffles, Muslim bird for the week. Only got one slide. So it's been World Cup in the US mainly, as you might know. And here's a beautiful response to a well-meaning meme. Why doesn't Argentina have more black players in the World Cup? And the answer was because we're a country, not a Disney movie.
Yeah, touche.
Boom tish.
Boom tish. Yep. Exactly right. Don't fall for all this bloody continued BS. It's trying to manipulate us.
Now, just on that topic, I don't remember seeing a single female player on any of these men's teams.
Yeah, well, I don't know. We might have to write to them. Maybe we could boycott them in some way, Bruce, because that's just not on in today's standard, isn't it?
Well, as we know, women can do anything men can do, and this is the premier soccer event in the world. Wouldn't they want to be there?
Yeah, you'd think so, wouldn't you?
So why aren't they there?
That's a good question. Might have to take that on notice.
It's because it's not a Disney movie. None of them are good enough to play at world level against men.
Yeah. Well, there we are. Good work. Last slide. There we are. There it is. It's the final slide. I won't make it any long. No, you did. Well done, brother. Thank you for staying in there, and we'll go from there. And I was going to bring up the bonds thing, but we might save that over to next week. And if you haven't already heard of it, maybe you can do a bit of your own research on that, because it fits in well with the Jaguar story, and I think it'll probably end up backfiring on bonds as well. But
backfiring,
anyway,
boom.
Boom, boom, backfiring of the old bonds. Yep. So there you go. And I did want to throw one more comment in there, and this is just to say so Dan doesn't think we're censoring him again. Dr. Dan, thanks for your comment to say that Bruce should have had his flu shot. He reckons that because it's a 40% success rate, you should have had your flu shot, Bruce. So anyway, there you go, Dr. Dan. I did.
Did he really say that?
Yeah, he did, mate. Yeah. There's a comment in there. I can't find it now, but it's it's in the comments. He commented on something. He said
and he said it was 40% effective, did he?
Yeah, there was a study apparently, a recent study apparently that he's quoting. It said 40% effective or something like that. So yeah, we got so many comments tonight. So thanks everybody for commenting. I can't find it, but on the I think on the X feed, I think. It's on there, to be honest. What do you have? Andy has said, I reckon Bruce should have had a man flu vaccine or something. But anyway, yeah, we allow him to have these little.
We need to send him the Cleveland study of a couple of years ago, where they had I think 100,000 healthcare workers, some vaxxed, some not, and they had a 27% higher rate of influenza in the vaxxed cohort.
No, it won't
so
mate. It's not.
That's not 40% effective. That's minus 27% effective.
No, it doesn't matter to vaxophiles, because they'll just like, no, it's not a credible study, Bruce. Right. So anyway, there you go.
Was it?
Yeah, there you go, Dan. I did share it. I couldn't find your comment because it was so far up, but anyway, I did share. I did end up seeing it. Bruce was in between something else, so I didn't put it up at the time. But there you go.
As I sometimes say to people when I'm skeptical but trying to be polite, oh, thanks, Dan. I had no idea. Thank you very much. I'll do that.
Exactly. Yeah, good on you. God bless you, brother. All right, have a great week, everybody. Well done, Bruce, for toughing it out there with the man flu, and we'll see you do it all next week. And thanks everybody for smashing the comments section. I can't put them all up because it's just going to be too distracting. There's so much that comes through, but we really appreciate your input and coming on. So good on you guys. Have a great week. God bless you all.
And cheers to Captain Cluttery.
I like his new image. You have to patent that. You'll have to put a trademark or something on it. So there you go.
No, that's a gift. That's what you get when you hang the show.
Captain Cluttery, and good on your Hales for putting that together. All right, mate. See ya.
To fight again for that already burned, he was driven towards the flames. All the signs are there for all to see, the signs we've lost our way. When we jail our heroes and applaud our villains and turn our hearts away, like a silent choir too scared to sing the anthem of a braver day. A song our children may never hear, the ballad of Dr. Bruce Paix. A song our children may never hear, the ballad of Dr. Bruce Paix.